just realized that my sweater says Sunday, and this is going up on a Tuesday.
Lazy Sundays.
Well, podcast Sundays. Roll the intro.
Wild Til 9! Are you ready?
Yep, let's go home.
Hey guys, welcome back to Wild Til 9, our weekly podcast hosted by myself, Lord DIY, and my boyfriend, Dermer.
That's me.
Dermer.
It's me.
Just sounds.
My favorite part of every review press synopsis ever. It's just like, and boyfriend.
Oh yeah, hosted by Lauren Riamaki, Lord DIY, and boyfriend.
No. Lauren Riamaki, Lord DIY, 14 times champion of this, 43 billion views of this, accomplishment, multi-continental international superstar, and her boyfriend.
And boyfriend.
Jeremy.
I mean, it could be worse.
No, yeah, it could.
It could definitely be worse, yeah. I mean, so yeah, and boyfriend. So welcome and boyfriend.
I could not be dating you, which would be
that sounds
so
horrific.
Much worse.
Yeah, 100%. Anyways, stop, drop, roll, rate the podcast, subscribe, and follow on your platform
Platform of choice.
Platform of choice, your podcast streaming platform of choice. So we just want to make a quick disclaimer before we hop into this episode. If you're here for conversations around dick, sex, gray sweatpant ween, Jeremy being a fuckboy, we need you to head on back to the other episodes if you're not fully caught up, or set an alarm for next week's episode, because not that this is like a serious, well, I guess it is kind of serious. I mean,
It's not serious.
It's not serious conversation around mental health. So welcome to the mental health episode. I'm just like eating all my words today.
No. You're eloquent as always, my love.
Yeah, this is a good start for me for sure. A
whole skew of great things coming out of that mouth of yours.
I don't skew. I wish you hadn't even put that word out there, because now it's like at the front of my brain.
Yeah. I mean, let's try and find a way to make this not
I mean, you know what?
boring.
There's so much of my anxiety journey that I look back at now and is highly entertaining, just because of like anxiety. I mean, at its core is a fear of something irrational, typically. So I mean, there's lots of stories that I can look back at and find the light in and the entertainment value in, because it wasn't okay then, but I was okay, and I still am okay, and I'm here to tell the story of that journey.
You know, next time that we're, entering into a bout of anxiety, I'll just enter it in with that. Hey, by the way, this was really irrational. Times past. And I just remember that now. And if you want to maybe just fast forward through this, we can just pop on back to the rational side of our conversation.
I mean, do you know how much I would love to hit a fast forward button on an anxiety attack? Let's just skip the.
I mean, I'd hit fast forward on my life if I said that, and that would be it.
Yeah, that's an exaggeration. Don't be a drama queen. But no, I really do wish that I could hit a fast forward button on my anxiety attacks. Like, just, let's skip the dizziness. Let's skip the rapid heart rate. Let's skip the hyperventilation. Let's skip the nausea, the disorientation. Yeah, all of it. I would just, yeah.
It's part of your character.
It really is. It is a big part of me. So here's a fun story, is that I had an anxiety attack on like our 4th or 5th date, I think it was. And we were on a double date with another couple, friend couple, right? Friend couple?
Yeah.
A couple
of friends that happen to be a couple.
Two people who were dating were our company for dinner. And I just had a full-blown anxiety attack, and I feel like I've been super open publicly about my anxiety journey, but for those of us who are just joining us now on the podcast and haven't watched me have my life fall apart multiple times and have many mental breakdowns online in the public eye through anxiety, I'm like here for the cause. Like, I'm so down to be as transparent as possible about my experience, because I have just had so many meaningful conversations with viewers and subscribers who have related and learned and just gotten insight about the topic of anxiety, because it's so, topical, literally. And I think it's important to have a voice for normalizing it and destigmatizing mental health in general.
And I'll be here as someone who doesn't have anxiety, but lives with someone with anxiety. And so let's remember that take my advice and my perspective with a grain of salt. This is not someone who deals with the same types of issues, I feel like.
I think for the sake of the conversation, though, it's super helpful, and it's a good balance to hear how you think about things and how you process things as someone who doesn't, kind of suffer or experience anxiety.
Right. And I have my own bag of things that I get stressed the fuck out about. And we can talk about that too. I think it'd be helpful if, similar to how you did for me, I feel like in the beginning stages when I was like, what is this? Why do you do the things you do?
Why do I do that?
Yeah.
Why does your brain do that?
You keep doing that thing. Yeah, we've talked about it. It's not rational. No, like what is, for the people at home, what is anxiety?
I just remembered that I literally started being like, oh my God, guys, fun story. I had an anxiety attack on our 4th date and then never told the story.
Back to the story.
So I'll hit these in both. Okay, so 4th or 5th date, started to feel weird. Went to the bathroom to go when I'm having an anxiety attack and start feeling anxious, I can't carry a conversation. I totally dissociate and am so in my own head and cannot be a part of any of my surroundings. I am just like a bag of bones and blood at that point. I am contributing nothing to the conversations around me.
A really pretty bag of bones.
Thanks, babe. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So I went to the bathroom to go oh my God, am I going to die? What's happening? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, not what's happening. I knew what was happening. I'm having an anxiety attack. And went to the bathroom, took a few minutes to breathe, and was gone for a longer amount of time than you would like to be on a 4th or 5th date. And I was like, ugh, he thinks I'm shitting for sure.
Oh my God.
For sure. And I mean, at this point, actually, this was the night that you announced to everyone that you had deleted all of your dating apps. That was the night I remember at the table at the restaurant that we were at that you were like, yeah, I deleted all the apps.
And then this happened and I downloaded them again.
Right. And then you were like, oh, this girl took a fat poo-poo.
Raya, Hinge, Tinder, Bumble, League.
So anyway, so I came back and I was like, hey, I'm having an anxiety attack. I need to just go outside and get some air. And you handled that night like a fucking champion. And it said so much about just the other experiences that I had with significant others and anxiety, and had barely even gotten to know you. I mean, we hung out 4 or 5 times, and the way that you handled it was A+.
Thank you. I'd like to say it was planned and I had it all in my head and how I was going to figure it out, but I just did what came to mind.
I was gonna say, I feel like you didn't have a plan.
No, I had no plan.
Have you been in a relationship or had friends who are super anxious?
Never. And it's not to say that I've never had friends, I'm sure, that deal with anxiety, but I've never had a girlfriend or a close friend that dealt with anxiety. And I think a lot of my exes were in the performing arts.
Right.
And I feel like it's not to say they don't get anxious, but they live almost on the edge.
Oh, I hate being on the edge.
Yeah, but you don't walk out into crowds and perform and not feel comfortable in the uncomfortable. And as someone as personally who came from that world as well, I feel like that was not the type of stress and anxiety that I was used to.
But here's the thing too, is that I want to stop you right there, is that stress and anxieties are 2 very, very different things. And I always explain this to people who are not new, but are just starting to learn about mental health, is that nerves and nervousness different from stress different from anxiety. So my dad was one of the first people that I learned to have this conversation with, where he was like, I just don't get how you can go out in front of 10,000 people and go public speak, but and you're not anxious about that. But about this, and this you're anxious about. And I'm like, no, those are 2 different things. They absolutely are all connected and can be triggers for one or the other, but they are so completely different. And I feel like that's a great place to start in understanding the different pillars of mental health.
The human condition.
The human condition. My condition.
Did we finish that last story?
Yeah, I mean, and then you just handled it like a champ, and I was nice. And I was I wasn't pooping. I was just nice, okay, cool, wasn't shitting, was in the bathroom for a long time, trying to get my life back together, couldn't do it, needed air, got past the anxiety attack, you were great about it, and we went on another date after.
Well, remember I took you outside.
Yeah, we went outside and it was fine. But I remember that being not a make or break moment, but had you handled that very poorly, that would have been the last time that I saw you.
Right.
So congratulations, you passed the test.
Thank you. Failed every single one since, but that one, no.
That one we passed. So to define anxiety, I probably should have looked this up and got the Webster's and WebMD.
Yeah, but anyone can do that. They're not coming here.
You're right.
The scientific definition. What does anxiety mean to you?
I'm the case study.
Okay, great.
It's a fear of something irrational, and it's a reaction to something that you perceive, whether rational or not, and it's your reaction of something that you foresee to be stressful or unsafe or you don't have control over. And so my specific anxiety is just like a general anxiety disorder, but specifically a emetophobia. So I have an irrational fear of throwing up. And that sounds so random. Some people are like, oh my God, yes, like that's me as well. But for those of you who have never heard of that, it's for me personally, it's the anxiety around the lack of control. So it's like the same thing as a sneeze. Like you think about how that's an uncontrollable bodily function that like when your body needs to sneeze, like it just does it. Like, yes, you can like plug your nose and like try and do things to make it stop. But like at the end of the day, if your body wants to sneeze, like it's gonna do it. And
can you imagine being anxious about hiccups?
Oh my God, I would die. I don't know what's wrong with me. I think there's something wrong with my diaphragm because I get the hiccups more than anyone I know.
Nothing wrong with you, my love. Keep going.
So for some reason, after many years of therapy, I do know the reason, and we'll get into that. But my brain has wired itself to have an irrational fear around this loss of control of a bodily function that is throwing up. Again, we'll get into the reason. But so whenever I start feeling sick or someone around me feels sick or I am thinking or I'm headed to go do something that could make me feel sick, like a roller coaster or getting like motion sick or something, I get anxious about the possibility of being sick, which I really have only thrown up maybe 3 times in my entire life, which is something that I've, worked through a lot in therapy. It's like it's not a reaction that my body frequently goes to. And maybe that's a part of the problem, that if I threw up more often, I'd be less scared of it. But that's what emetophobia is.
I don't really have much to add to that. But yes.
And you know what? It sucks because I feel so bad. It's because when like, just say like a girlfriend is like too drunk and is like throwing up and like you always see in the movies like holding her hair back. I can't be that bitch. As much as I am a good friend and I pride myself on being such a good friend, if you're throwing up, I gotta go. I gotta be in a different room. I literally like start getting anxious and have to like plug my ears. Like it's not a cute look on me as a friend. And also too, like if Jeremy's ever been sick from definitely not drinking too much,
alcohol consumption,
or even when Jeremy is ill from like actual things or self-induced on New Year's Eve or self-induced intoxication to the point of illness.
Self-induced intoxication? It's usually self-induced.
I mean, no, but like if you had food poisoning, I still wouldn't be able to like rub your back and hold your coif or whatever.
I vaguely distinctly remember it was, I think, New Year's Eve this year.
Yeah, it was.
We had a house party here, pre-COVID, and I got litty.
No, the problem was is that you didn't actually drink that much. You just had a ton of champagne. And I feel like it was just the mix of the bubbles and the whiskey and the beers and the White Claw. It's like the mixing and the bubbly. I feel like it was just, it wasn't it for you.
So I have this uncanny ability, and it wasn't always this way, but I don't know, it was like 22, 23. I have this uncanny ability, no matter how much I've had to drink, if I can make it to bed, if I can fall asleep, I'm good.
It's insane. Literally, Jeremy will drunkenly be like, oh, I don't feel well, babe.
Right.
I don't feel well. And then as soon as he's out and I feel the twitch and I hear the snore, I'm like, oh, we're good.
We're good to go.
And I'm literally anxious on the other side of the bed until you're out. I'm getting anxious. I'm like, oh, is he going to get sick? Is he going to get sick?
Right.
And so anyway, so New Year's, go ahead.
I was like, oh, shit, I'm starting to feel bad, whatever. I didn't go to bed. And so I ran upstairs, like getting half naked to like fall into bed or whatever. And like I get in, and I remember I get there. And like when I'm drunk or whatever and I fall asleep in 7 seconds or whatever, not a problem. This time I remember feeling like, ooh, I got this
the bed spins.
The spins. And I remember I was like, no. You can do this. Go to sleep. And I remember my eyes like shot open and I go, I have seconds. I have a few seconds.
No, this is not how it happened. You were out for half an hour.
Oh, I was out?
You were out for half an hour.
Well, see, when I say I distinctly remember, I distinctly vaguely remember. Why don't you go ahead and tell it from there? Because I think that's when my brain said goodnight.
Right. Your brain was out. Yeah. So fell asleep. And so you fell asleep. My anxious ass is like, great, drunk Jeremy is out. I'm good to go to sleep now. I'm in the clear. We made it. So you're sleeping. And all of a sudden I wake up to Jeremy like struggling to unlock our balcony door, which leads out to like a balcony that overlooks our front garden, the front of our house, our like front like bay window on the lower floor. And he's struggling with the lock because we just like always keep it locked, obviously, and it's 2 a.m. busts the door open finally, both hands gripping the side of the railing of this balcony, projectile vomits straight off of the balcony into the gutters, down the window below us on the bay window. Oh my God. It was now it's hilarious. It's one of the funniest things that you've ever done in our relationship is that story.
Okay.
And like fun fact. And so we live across from a place that has 24-hour security. And like the best part of this story is just like thinking about being that security guard at 2 a.m, seeing Jeremy just like throw up his insides, projecting it from the second story. Because his job is probably so boring. I mean, maybe on New Year's Eve is a little more lit, but like to see that from across the street is the funniest fucking thing I've ever thought of.
You can log off now, Mom. And I remember then like going into like the bathroom area.
Yeah.
Like coming back. I knew I couldn't make it to the bathroom. I knew that like there was like drunk Jeremy.
Yeah.
Looked at his options and he did his flight path and he realized he had better luck making it to the balcony than like getting up and like getting into our bathroom, which is like around the corner and around another corner. Anyway, so then I walked back in. I was like, oh, I'm good. And Lauren, of course, is like, are you okay? What's going on? Are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm good or whatever. And I remember I just like parked myself by the toilet. I don't think I puked anymore.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
But like we definitely thought that there was more. And so like I got you water and I got you a blanket and I like tucked you in the bathroom and I was like, all right, I'll see ya.
But like around the corner, like anxiously, like, everything okay in there?
You okay, babe? You okay?
I'm fine.
From around the corner.
But even like drunken Jeremy then was like, you need to be able to at least lie to her and say that you're okay.
You were not lying. You were like, babe, please hang out with me.
I was like, okay.
Please hang out with me.
I didn't say that. I was super manly. Babe. I took care of it. It was, I remember this part. This is a lie. Anyway, so got back in bed and fell asleep.
Yeah, that was the end of it. So yeah, I just like don't do well around throw ups, and luckily you're not much of a puker, and I am not either.
I also hate puking, but
I mean, there's not very many people. I admire the people like Remy who like when they know they're too drunk can just like go and pull the trigger and make themselves.
Just call Remy out like that?
Cause she's like that's a boss bitch move. Are you kidding? I wish I could do that. It's admirable.
Our drunk friend Remy, she's great about it.
She also just has like a hilariously like delicate gag reflex. So like we'll be brushing our teeth at a sleepover and she'll just be like wah, wah. And it makes me a little anxious because just the whole throwing up thing makes me nervous. Anyway, so after many years of therapy, and I mean I probably didn't need to look this inwards to connect this all together because again, like just everything in your life is always connected. But I dated someone for 4 years who had severe epilepsy. Oh, that's tough, babe. For our video viewers, Jeremy has just spilled on himself.
Fine.
It's just water, right? It's just water. Yeah, you're fine. That'll dry up by the end of the episode. Don't worry.
Good.
But yeah, so I was in a relationship with someone for 4 years who had severe epilepsy. And it was to the point where they would have seizures on a weekly basis. We could go anywhere from having only like 1 a month to like 40 a month. It could be 10 in one day or it could be 10 in the month. It totally fluctuated. And I think experiencing and seeing seizures was just the epitome of feeling like you are not in control because there is no way to stop a seizure. There is no way to prevent a seizure from happening once like the brain is headed in that direction. So a pre-seizure symptom is called an aura. And so when someone's having an aura, there's like a few things that you can do to help prevent it. But typically if you're having an aura, it gonna happen. And it was just like the loss of control over and over and over again that I didn't properly learn how to process, that somehow connected itself, that somehow wired itself in my brain to make me anxious around a specific bodily function, which you have no control over. So figured that out through therapy for sure. But I mean, even anxiety aside, like that's very traumatic and something that I should have been in therapy for sure. So like the first seizure that my boyfriend had, he went into a coma for 4 days and I was the only one there when he had that very first seizure, and super, super traumatic. Like, don't wish that on anyone. And probably that is the day that I probably should have started therapy to like process what had happened, process that it was not my fault, process.
But no one goes into like a trauma like that and is immediately like, I should probably start seeking some help immediately to curve this off in the future. Like,
maybe.
No one thinks that way.
I guess. Yeah.
Unless you're already in therapy.
And you're very self-aware.
Right.
You're very self-aware.
No teenager is like, I think it's time to seek professional help.
Right. And so that happened in grade 12. And that was the beginning kind of all of my anxiety struggles and journey. And so when I moved to Toronto for college after I graduated of university, I think there was also the trigger of just like having a very large life change that made me highly anxious, and there was like all these new factors that also felt like mildly out of control. So I think it was a combination of having like this trauma that was recurring, and then also just like new things to be stressed about, and again like combination of nerves, stress, anxiety. I was just overwhelmed to the point of eventually seeking help from my doctor, and so I started taking medication and I started therapy. I've been with a lot of different therapists, and the first few were not the right fit for me. And I mean, therapy, I've said this before, is like dating. Like you need to find the right therapist for you. Flashback to Jeremy finding his therapist that told him to go be a fuckboy safely, but why
I don't think this
you're
story's
being
about
a
me.
fuckboy.
Don't think this story's about me.
Well, no, it's just like that's a great case in point about how you found a therapist that you just vibed with.
Well, back to your story.
I mean, babe, there's nothing wrong with going to therapy and having it confirmed that you should be a fuckboy. Go listen to the fuckboy episode. It's very entertaining.
Yeah, we're just throwing that out there without a context and hoping that everybody's viewed that way.
Anyways, I started a small dose of a drug called Celexa, and over the course of maybe 3 months, it does take your body a little bit of time to get adjusted. It just like a cloud just like dissolved or dissipated, or what's the proper science cloud term when it evaporates. Science. But like this cloud of like anxiety and not being able to like leave my room and walk down the street, go to the mall, go to parties, like do anything, go to class, like the amount of class that I skipped in my first year of university because I was too anxious to get out of bed to even go downstairs and get food in the cafeteria. Like I was completely trapped in this lifestyle and could not get out, and getting on medication was truly like the turning point for me being able to do a 180 with my life and start like literally living again. Like I was living life at probably 10% capacity, and getting on medication.
Yet it felt like 100 and you couldn't give anymore.
Absolutely. It felt like 100. I was like, this is all I have to give right now. And that's such a good way to put it. And getting on medication was the best thing that I could have ever done. And again, medication is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor and find, what the best fit for you is. But for me, it was genuinely life-changing. And I want to be super clear, and again, this is just my journey, but medication is not like the magic fix to everything anxiety and stress and depression related. But for me personally, it just kind of cleared that cloud. Again, going back to my very accurate and scientific cloud metaphor, it cleared the cloud so that I could see more clearly and go to therapy and have meaningful conversations and kind of go back through the past traumas and figure out and make connections and learn more about anxiety in general, and also like what I had been through and how it all connects. So as much as I would love to just take one pill a day and make it all go away forever and be magically cured, it's so much more than that. And anxiety is something that I am prepared and have just like accepted and feel okay about, honestly. And it took me a long time to get to this place.
Okay, you say that, but let me challenge that in the sense of the first time it came up with us, right? I feel like the first thing your brain went to outside of clearing the air for like, let me, breathe again is, oh, he's gonna be so turned off by this. So it's like there's still insecurities there.
You're definitely going to come across people in your life who are not going to react and treat you the way that you deserve to be treated just because you do struggle with anxiety. And so, I mean, again, like not that it really was make or break. Actually, I say that it's not make or break, but it totally was. Like, had you not reacted well to that, I would have been super bummed because things had been going so well between us. And I was like, oh man, like crazy bitch alert. Like, damn, like this is me just like putting it all out there on date 4 or 5. But I do actually think there's pros to that because it was a conversation that naturally just came up because that had happened, and we got to have that conversation probably much earlier on in the relationship than we would have had that not happened.
Yeah, agreed.
Guys, Jeremy has a new love in his life, and it's not me, and I'm not even mad about it. It's Ned, our new fave CBD brand that has genuinely had so many life-changing benefits for both of our lifestyles.
CBD has gotten extremely popular in recent years, and it's no secret that there's a whole list of incredible benefits that can be derived from CBD. It can be overwhelming to decide where to start, so we're here to introduce you to Ned.
I feel like I'm kind of just like a walking list of different ailments as I've gotten older. Like everything really went downhill after 21. And I love being able to turn to simple and effective natural remedies. Personally, I use CBD to help treat anxiety as an anti-inflammatory and sleep aid, but it can also be used as a natural pain reliever, anti-anxiety, help with PTSD and depression.
Ned products are the real deal. They didn't cut corners, and there are zero isolates or synthetic ingredients. It's science-backed and nature-based solutions. I've been using the Ned Sleep Blend, and I'm genuinely amazed at how effective it is compared to other remedies I've tried.
If you want to check out Ned and try their CBD for yourself, we have a special offer for the Wild Till 9 audience. Go to www.helloned.com/wild and enter WILD at checkout for 15% off your first one-time order or 20% off your first subscription order plus free shipping. That's HELLONED.com/wild to get 15% off your first one-time order or 20% off your first subscription order plus free shipping. Thank you, Ned.
I think it's important, and as someone who certainly is not an expert at this, I'm just someone who lives with you and has learned from the past that not every problem is ripe for fixing.
For sure.
I think that past Jeremy would have, especially as past Jeremy is someone who did not deal with anxiety, would have struggled to not be able to come up with a logical solution in the moment every time, and would have then been frustrated with the situation or himself or you or whatever in indirect ways because, well, you're not going to be sick. There's no reason to be fear being sick. Let me show you all the reasons as to why you're not being sick. That's not helpful. And I think that guys oftentimes are trying to come up with when their girlfriend or significant other or family member comes to them with a problem or something's happening, they're so quick to have an answer to that when really sometimes people are just coming to them to talk and they want to have someone next to them or feel heard or feel understood. Absolutely. And that's way more important. And I think that like the biggest thing that I've learned, and it's just what I do, and when I feel like every time that you say, oh, I don't feel good, or I feel like I'm starting to have an anxiety attack, as opposed to saying, okay, let me get you this, or let me fix this, or whatever, it's very much well, what can I do to help?
Right.
And the reason I asked that question, how or what can I do to help, is because it then forces that other person to, as opposed to think to themselves of like, okay, do this, or I'm going to do this. It's, well, what can you get me to help? And if it's nothing, there's no answer, and that's okay. Just sit there. Just be there. Exist there. Right. Don't add more stress to it. Or what's wrong? What are you feeling? How can I help? Wait, it's not about that. Hey, how are you feeling? What can I do to help? That simple question is enough to get us to the next phase. Right.
And that's such a good, I feel like, piece of advice for significant others who are experiencing like being on your end of like the anxiety relationship. Because I feel like people do always want to help, and they want to help in the way that they think is the best, and it might not be the best fit.
Especially like the mothers who feel like they go into that fight or flight of I need to help, and it's a very much a, well, what can I do to help? What are you feeling? How and it's like they immediately want to attack the problem of like, well, let's get it fixed then. Where it's really just like, okay, you're having an anxiety attack. The other person's not. You should not be
right. Don't be adding stress. Like you're the chill one right now.
Right. We all know parents that, in good intentions, by the way, that will just like hover will just like helicopter over issues because they want to fix it, but that's not actually going to fix an irrational problem in the first place.
And I mean, I think there's so many different scenarios, because I think there's like the helicopter or hovering parent who wants to fix it, and it all comes from good intentions. But I also think that there's so many adults and parents, especially of our generation, who don't believe in mental health, because I feel like now it's such an honest and open and transparent conversation for our generation, but for our parents, our grandparents, it wasn't like that back then. And so I talk to a lot of young people who struggle to have that conversation with their parents because they don't think that like anxiety and depression are real. They're like, suck it up and just work harder, try harder, just be happy. Like why can't you just see that?
Well, I think therapy in general was taboo for so long, because if you're going to a therapist, that means there's something wrong with you, right? It's like, whether it's like a marital therapist or a relationship or any type of therapy means something's wrong, and people don't want to admit something's wrong in the first place. Like I distinctly remember as a kid when my mom would get, when she was driving somewhere, and this was before GPSs existed, I remember she would get very, very anxious when she didn't know where she was going. I remember she'd like turn the music down all the time, and her voice would get really short, and she'd get very upset and everything. And I'd be like, what's wrong? Like we just don't know where we're going. We'll pull to the side of the road. We'll figure it out. But for her, it was like this loss of control. I remember,
For sure.
And I remember she like turned to me a few times, like, "You'll understand when you're older, when you're in my position." Mm-hmm. Well, I don't, because that's not what I get anxious about. That's not something that impacts me, but it does her. And I think it's just a different conversation that hopefully in 20 or 30 years we'll be a lot smarter and open about.
For sure. And I mean, I think there's been so much progress, like so much progress. I have very seldom had comments that say, except for a few select pieces of shit on the internet, and I'm not even going to name them to give them the clout, that genuinely advocate for the idea that mental health is like not a real thing. But for the most part, I seldom get comments that are negative towards mental health, and people are very open and honest and appreciative of the transparency of the conversation.
I mean, I think people just don't understand, and they fear that, or they are quick to dismiss something that they don't understand.
And I mean, I think it's also difficult to understand things that you don't experience. And so for someone like you who doesn't get anxious, and don't say you don't get stressed and upset and angry, like those emotions are very real. But for someone who doesn't experience specifically anxiety, you have to make a conscious effort to learn about it and to understand it and to have the conversations with someone like me who needs support from someone who doesn't experience it. So if you don't make the effort to understand, you're never going to get there.
Understand and accept.
And accept, for sure. Acceptance is a huge part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I don't get stressed. It's just that I think the things that put me on edge are very different than what put you on edge. And I think that's probably a good thing that we were balanced out.
For sure.
In a sense that the way that I deal with my issues are very different. But yeah.
Anxiety is also just like such a learning process, like learning the different triggers and how to not only understand them, accept them, sometimes avoid them, but just like, for example, when someone has a seizure, they make like this really terrible choking sound because you're not breathing. And it's one of the worst sounds in the entire world. And the way that my body reacts to that is just like it's the trigger of hearing that sound and putting my brain back into the scenario, having no control. So even if someone in their sleep like chokes on spit for a quick second, like, and then rolls over and goes back to sleep and everything's fine, or someone chokes on a piece of food for a second and dislodges it and they're totally fine, that 1 second of that choking sound is such a trigger that immediately can put me back into a place from 8 years ago. And it's so crazy how our brains are wired like that. And it's just something that it'll probably always happen. Obviously, it probably gets a little dimmer and dimmer every year, but it's something that I know will continually happen, but it's the way that I react to it happening that's changed and improved over the years.
I think any memory that's tied to an emotional reaction
for sure
is nearly unforgettable.
Absolutely, for sure. I think there's just so many things that like in our brain, it gets marked as a specific thing and there's the links to it and it brings you right back.
Good or bad, that goes in the permanent folder.
Right. Good or bad. Right. And actually a really interesting metaphor that one of the better therapists that I worked with, explained to me that when I had the trauma of all these seizures and the coma and like the lack of control, my brain took that memory and that trauma and filed it into the wrong folder in my brain when it was organizing and trying to heal and recover from it. She was like, your brain doesn't know what to do with trauma. We're not built and conditioned to really handle trauma. And so sometimes your brain just doesn't know what to do with it. And so for me to be irrationally scared of throwing up is just how my brain reacted, and it went into the wrong folder.
Eventually, I'm sure Elon will invent something to figure that out.
To pluck that folder out and then reorganize it properly.
We'll have a whole nother slew of problems then, but yeah.
Or maybe I can just have like an offsite hard drive to store the trauma memories.
Or upload it to the cloud.
And upload it in the cloud,
like, visit it when you want to, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. For the memes. I've been super lucky with my anxiety and my family. They've always been super accepting and understanding. Like if we're having dinner and I like need to go home or something, there's never any pushback. They're both super down to accommodate me when I need to do something that's not normal of the night.
And to be clear, it's inconvenient, of course. Like
absolutely.
It's absolute shit for someone who doesn't accept or understand.
Right.
If you're not willing to accept and understand that it's a real thing, it would come off as like, so we're just going to end our night because of some irrational thing that you're dealing with.
Well, yeah, for someone who doesn't understand, they'd be like, oh, so your shoelace untied and that means we have to end our entire fun night? Like
Right.
that's like the
Totally.
level of severity it is in their mind, and when they don't understand.
Right.
And that lack of understanding is so stressful for people who do struggle with anxiety, because my biggest fear is inconveniencing others. My biggest fear is ruining someone's night or ending someone's like fun time or putting a damper on activities because of my anxiety or something that I have to do because of my anxiety. Like if we go out and I have to go home and my friends don't want to stay at the bar and they want to come home with me, I just feel bad. And it's like, it's such a cycle of getting anxious about I get anxious about getting anxiety and inconveniencing others. And it's a cycle that I feel like a lot of people with anxiety experience. And if you don't have the right people around you that you know are very accepting of that and understanding, it can make your situation so much worse.
One hell of a whirlwind there.
It's a big old cycle.
But I think parents are so they want to see the best in their kids, and they want to see the best for their kids. And I think to a degree, so many of them go into this of, well, it's probably just it's probably just a phase. It's probably just a thing. This will move on. This will be a transition that we can kind of get through. So as long as we just don't really acknowledge it, that will move through. 'Cause we don't want this to become a thing.
Right.
And like, you get where they're coming to the situation in good intentions.
Yep.
They're just not seeing the bigger picture.
Right. And I mean, a lot of the times if it gets neglected, it just gets worse. It just gets worse. It does not go away. You don't just forget about it. It doesn't just magically disappear one day. And it's something that needs to be addressed individually, obviously, with support.
I mean, I'm painfully ADD, like painfully. Like, and I think that it's so common yet so taboo, and to a degree that who knows what I would have been like academically had I been like prescribed and been like diagnosed earlier.
Right.
But all I know is after I went to the doctor, finally, and fought tooth and nail to even get to the doctor and was old enough to be able to make those decisions myself, my academic career, night and day.
Oh, so you made the decision. You didn't get diagnosed until you were allowed to like sign your own papers and take yourself there.
Correct.
Oh, well, I feel like you hear so many stories about kids, especially like young kids, having ADD or ADHD, and their teachers and parents just like won't take them to the doctor because they're like, they're just a high energy kid.
Does not accept that I have ADD.
Right. And you're just like, it's a high energy kid. They'll grow out of it. They're just immature. You need to exercise your child more. Like you hear so many stories about that, and just like, and it's such a complicated situation because you need the adult to validate that, I guess, because
Can't go to the doctor without it.
Yeah. When you're in grade 1, like you can't go and be like, hi, I have ADD. And I mean, you know what? Kids are so smart now at such a young age. Maybe they do. But I mean, like when we were growing up, like there were so many kids who sometimes would get held back a grade because they said that their brain wasn't mature enough to focus and have attention.
Right. And it's this very frustrating thing as a kid because there's so many, when you're an adult, you don't have to do as many, mentally challenging things that you might not be interested in. You might have to go to work.
True.
You might have to do that. But like, I'll never have to do geometry again.
Right.
I'm not going to have to learn French unless I want to learn French.
Right.
And I think as a, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grader, it's very easy to, come up with an excuse not to do something. And I think your parents are, well, can you just focus? Can you figure it out? And for anyone with ADD, they'll relate to the sense that when you look at something, you're not interested in it. There's no passion here, but you have to do it. And you start doing it. And you then realize a minute, 2, 3 minutes later that you've already trailed off on the next thing in your head, whether you're making some story up or your imagination's going, or you're going on to a task that is, slightly less boring. And you do that just in cycles for hours and hours and hours. You don't get anything done.
And I'm sure that's frustrating.
It is frustrating. And what's even more frustrating is that once you are, able to seek help, and whether that's medication, whether that's some form of therapy, your brain is unlocked in a way that is, I can actually do all of the work. It's not that it's above my cognitive ability. It's just something that like my brain has such a difficult time honing in on from start to finish that I never actually get to show how smart I am in the first place. And for an adult, not a problem. I'm going to be 30 in a couple of years. Like, I don't think that I will ever, be able to like get over being ADD. There's just not a world where that's something that is just going to be something that I'm healed or learn enough from. I need that help from the medication side. That might not be the case for everybody.
Totally.
But I think it's so difficult. And I urge parents of kids to figure out how to at least be a little bit more open and honest to all the realm of possibilities before you just decide which ones you're willing to accept or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think trusting a healthcare professional is probably the move instead of, just, going by your own judgment and ideas.
I mean, just like to put a button on that last portion, it's very much just like the things that I deal with, that you deal with and everything are all relative, right? We all have our own specific issues and the way that they start and on the trigger side, a way that we deal and cope or learn to get better from them. I think the important piece is to remember that nobody else's fix is going to be the same fix for you. You might have a similar one, but there's no one size fits all.
Absolutely.
And I think that it's a combination of many things. And I don't think there's one specific change. Oh, and then everything got better. Maybe that would be the case for some people. It's not for me. It's not for you. But to understand that like you probably aren't perfect and check all boxes, that's okay. Have a unique approach to it and figure out what works for you and then continue to evolve on that so that you continue to get better or understand better or feel more safe or comfortable during your everyday life.
For sure. And I've been really open about like the types of ways that I've used therapy and medication and different meditation apps. And I talk about things that I've tried. I think it's almost more important to talk about the normalization of it and the understanding, the acceptance side of it, because like you said, like my journey is going to be so different from everyone else's. Like it's so specific, the trauma that I had, not to say that there aren't people who had significant others with epilepsy, but just like everything is so connected to like the way you were raised, the place and time that your traumas happened with, who you were with, who you saw after your trauma. Like every scenario is so individual. And I try and use my platform to destigmatize the conversation around mental health rather than offer cures for people. Because again, that's not my expertise. That's not what I went to school for. And again, like there's great apps out there that I love that other people might love, but it's just not one size fits all. And unfortunately, what works for me might not work for everyone else.
Definitely. And I think the whole point is just to try and do your best and not trying to have all the answers.
My journey has also been like 11 years, and my coping mechanisms have been a combination of so many different things over those years. Like I got a medication in 2011 or 12, and I've been on that same medication actually for about 9 years, and I just recently switched. It was rough. Oh my God, your girl was not okay. And so anyways, I just...
Rough couple of weeks.
Yeah, seriously, rough couple of weeks transitioning off of that med and then onto a new one. But I felt like I had metabolized my body. I felt like my body had started metabolizing that medication just because I'd been on it for so long. I was at maximum dose and I was like, okay, time to try something new. So with the help of my doctor, I got on a new medication. So that first medication has been part of my, healing and coping journey the entire time. But it's been in and out of therapy, working with different therapists, trying different types of therapy, and also things more on like the natural side of like using CBD and massage, meditation, and so many different things. And so I think it also depends on like what point of your life you're at as well to know what you need and like new things to try, and when it's like time to maybe not revamp but try something new if you're not feeling your best. And so that's how I was feeling a couple months ago when I talked with my doctor about not feeling the maximum benefits that I had once felt from the original medication. So she prescribed me something that I could also take on a day when I was feeling crazy anxious and could not get it under control. So I've got 2 different types of medication now. So it's definitely been an evolving process that's always kind of changing a little bit and tailoring depending on how I'm feeling. And I think this also brings me to my next point in that this will always be in waves. Like I would love to feel great all the time and just like have my set of coping mechanisms that are great and always work. But I mean, that's just not the reality of life. Like, so as much as I would love that whatever the combination of coping mechanisms I have right now to make me feel bomb every single day, like that would be ideal. That's the dream. I think my lifestyle is not one that is crazy predictable and consistent, partially because of the industry I'm in. And I mean, even just like the climate of the world, like that pertains to everyone, is that like things don't stay the same every single day. So being able to be flexible with how you treat your symptoms, I think is so important, and understanding that there's no end all be all solution that's going to work forever. One size fits all may work for your accessories or oversized hoodies, but when it comes to your hair, we all need something a little different to help us look our best. What if hair care was as unique as you are?
Function of Beauty is hair care that is formulated specifically for you. No matter your hair type, they create shampoo, conditioner, and treatments to fit your unique needs. How unique, you ask? Function of Beauty has over 54 trillion possible ingredient combinations to make sure your formula is as unique as you are.
That's like a lot, like 54 trillion. So here's how it works. First, you take a quick but thorough quiz and tell them a little about your hair. So I specify that I have bleached and damaged hair. Next, the Function of Beauty team determines the right blend of ingredients, then bottle your custom formula to order. Then they deliver your personalized formula right to your door in a cute customized bottle with your favorite color and fragrance, and they even put your name on it.
Their formulas are vegan, cruelty-free, and never use sulfates, parabens, or other harmful ingredients. Function of Beauty is not just the first ever custom hair care brand, it is the internet's top-rated customized hair care brand, with over 40,000 real 5-star reviews and counting. So what are you waiting for? Go to functionofbeauty.com/wild9 to take your 4-part hair profile quiz and save 20% on your first order. So go to functionofbeauty.com/wild9 for 20% off and let them know you heard about it from our show. That's functionofbeauty.com/wild9. Let's talk about fucking stress.
Let's talk about fucking stress. I am the queen of stress.
This conversation, I feel like, is starting to stress you out.
Literally, I'm sweating.
Every podcast, actually, you begin sweating.
I know. I think it's just hot in here. Also, a combination of that.
No, I would love for it to be an icebox. Don't invite that.
I know. I don't know if I want that either. I don't know if that wanted just.
I can turn it down.
I've noticed as I've gotten older that I'm literally eroding my teeth away because I clench my jaw so hard during the day and also when I sleep. And so this is like really inconvenient because my dentist wants me to wear a mouth guard at night. And like until we're married, I can't do that to either of us. Like that's just like a step that you don't take until you're 40 and have been married for 15 years.
I mean, by then it'll be Wild Till 7.
Wild Till 7, right. Wild Till 7 with a mouth guard. And
sex will be scheduled in our Gmail calendars.
Right. Yeah, I love that for us. But yeah, so my dentist, so my dentist has like highly recommended that I should wear a mouth guard before I crack my teeth open, and I can see in my front teeth where like I align my bottom teeth like to dig into my front teeth, and every morning I look at it being like, is today the day I crack my front tooth open?
You're gonna go full Hollywood veneers soon.
I mean, this is what I think about is like, if I were to crack my front tooth, it's like, would I just get one veneer on that tooth, or would I just go for it all and just shave them all down to little nubbies and do veneers on the whole mouth?
Let's wait till our 30s.
Oh God. Well, if I'm this stressed at 27 and my teeth are in this shape, I don't know if I've gotten till 30s.
I mean, I think stress is so, once again, very relative, and stress is something that like I don't experience anxiety very often. Like I get anxious once a quarter, but I get stressed out not all the time, but when I get stressed, I definitely I feel the weight of that, and I think it's so people are very unfair in the way that they assign and merit others' stress. And I think it's very easy for someone else to say, well, that I have more on my plate, or I have a harder life. No doubt. And that does sound terrible. I can only speak from my perspective. Yeah. And I think that it's the same from anxiety. It's the same for stress. And that, yes, it's not to say that you should sit there and complain all the time about how terrible your life is, because, yes, someone probably has a much harder life. Don't get me wrong. But that doesn't invalidate the fact that you have stress in the first place. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's the same thing as how like I wouldn't look down at high school me and be like, that stress about that massive project doesn't matter because your life is about to get way more. Like you wouldn't do that to your younger self. It was the most stressful thing in the world. And you can look back and laugh because you got through it. I think that looking back on my friends that didn't know how to deal with stress and didn't have an outlet for that stress were the ones that silently kept piling on more and more and more. Yeah. Ignored it, and in some cases, went as far to take their own life. And it's so clear to see in hindsight. Right. It's just so difficult at the time to figure out if your friend is carefree when they've got a lot going on. Right. Or they're truly not dealing with any of it.
I mean, I think people, the way that they handle it is so different. You don't know if they're projecting it inward or outward, and it can be really hard to tell if they don't reach out and ask for help.
Right, which I think is the last thing that some people are wired to do.
Absolutely. Oh my God, absolutely. The boyfriend that had epilepsy was the last person to ever ask for help. And it was something that he really struggled with because he did need help, obviously. Like sometimes it was a matter of his life on the line and literally needed to ask for help. And he just hated it so much because, pride, ego, and just like the way that he's wired, he hated the idea of potentially inconveniencing someone to help him.
Right. And I think that everyone has their own stress points, and obviously it's because of what we're dealt with and what we have to work with. But it's so relative. Going back to the things that stress us out, the things that stressed me out in high school were obviously different from college,
right.
And college to real life and beyond that. I say real life in the sense of just like you don't have the same type of stressors when you're still at your parents' house and not supporting yourself.
Right.
But some of those stressors are almost even, in some cases, harder to deal with because you feel like you don't have the freedom to make those choices anyway.
Right.
If you don't have the ability to, whether it's seek help or offload this or stop doing something because I said so, and you're living in my house and until you pay rent and all those things, I actually think that for a fact, I am much less stressed now than I was in high school and college because I pay my own bills.
Right.
And it's not a matter of like, I'm not waiting for someone to let me know what I can and can't do. I can go to this place. I can't go to this place. I need to be home by this. I can't do this because of this, paycheck or you need to do this for me so that I can do this. It's not to say that we don't have the similar thing with, you got to go to work. You got to get paid. You got to pay your bills. You got to, things will come up, but it's much more in my control than it was 10 years ago.
Right. And I think we're both similar in that when we feel like we're in control of things, it's more relaxing and less stressful for sure. Okay. So now in your current situation, how do you deal with stress?
Poorly.
Honestly, when Jeremy's like stressed, especially like when he's like in the middle of a career change or like a job transition, he literally stays up until 4 a.m. just by himself watching TV in the dark with Moose on the couch. And I've like already slept for 4 hours until he comes to bed.
Yeah. I have a hard time turning my brain off.
Right. I feel like when you're making lots of like hardcore decisions that could not put a fork in your life decisions, but like when you're making a decision on like a new path.
Right. And I think that the things that stressed me out when I got out of college were very much like, well, I was broke. I didn't have any money.
Right.
So it was very much, how do I pay for my existence?
Right.
And that comes with some serious fucking baggage. Like I think 99.9% of the people on this earth have been broke before and will be broke again. And God knows I could be broke again. And you're looking at things and moves of like, will that pay for this thing? Or will I be able to pay off that credit card debt? Or will I ever be able to pay back student loans? All of the things, just like you just pile more shit on, right? And moving away from that, like the student loans, they're paid. And, I got money for rent and all these things. Like you start to think, okay, I've got that taken care of. And you'd think that you go, okay, great, things are taken care of now. Except for now you are going to add new artificial goals and barriers in your life.
Right.
And it's very easy to say, well, don't do that. But now, as opposed to me, and the last time I made a career change, I was thinking to myself, not like, okay, great, this one pays better than my last job, let's take it. Because that would have been the first mindset. But now it's like, okay, this one pays better. That one pays less, but opens me up to new doors. This one I get equity back. Oh, this one. And there's so many different pieces, and there's not anyone you can just turn to and say, hey, what's the best, what option should I go with?
Right, just like shake the magic 8 ball.
Right, it's not as simple anymore. And I will take these problems over my old ones any day. Not being able to afford food sucks. Not being able to afford rent sucks. Not being able to have the freedom to do what you think are the bare minimum to survive and exist and not feel like you're constantly just like looking over your back for more debt that's going to be piled on sucks. But when your brain gets into that place of like, okay, how are you going to reach these imaginary goals you're putting for yourself? My brain personally stays on.
It literally doesn't turn off until you've like reached or come to like a concrete decision around the next step.
Netflix actually understands my stress periods better than anybody because they can look at my New Girl consumption and go from, he's going from 1 or 2 episodes a week to 2 to 3 seasons. Because I'm not like I'm sitting there staring there just like watching Schmidt be Schmidt. It's just like I'm like, okay, I could take that. No, I could take that. And I'll just start researching other companies and industries and things that are opens or whatever. And it's fuck, it sucks.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the type of person that has a quarterly mental breakdown for sure, but I also am a big fan of list making and like task prioritizing. And this is very type A of me, but it's truly like what keeps me sane. I have never been more busy than when I was in my 4th year of university and also doing YouTube at like a full-time rate. And the organization and time management skills that I had taking a full course load and making 1 to 2 videos a week and editing them myself and doing social media for myself and like trying to get my brand, my channel off the ground. Like
How to create a brand. Yeah.
Oh my God. That is the hardest that I have ever grinded in my entire life. Like I was probably working.
And by the way, not the smartest, just working the hardest.
Just working the hardest. Right. Yeah, 100%. And it was so insane. And so I feel like that year in particular taught me so much about time management and learning how to prioritize my tasks. So like I definitely have a full out mental breakdown first when I'm crazy stressed and I'm so overwhelmed that I can't do anything, which is the total opposite of productivity. Like I need to have a moment where I like crash and feel so out of control and everything's spiraling and I have my breakdown. And then I take a deep breath, I pull my shit together and I make a list of all the things that need to be done, when the due dates are, like what I owe to who and the priority of all of it and how much time everything's going to take, and work it into my schedule and figure it out. And I can always get it done.
I feel like it's very important that we point out the fact that it's a luxury that we were able to do this and figure it out and like, move on from it. We'll have these periods again. Can you imagine going through just as much work and having a kid?
Dude, literally when I think of people who have children, like parents, like even just thinking like right now, like amidst like the current situation of like the pandemic and so many parents having to do homeschooling with their kids doing online school.
Yep.
I cannot imagine being a parent in this situation where you're working a full-time job, you're taking care of kids, you're trying to help them through school, you're cooking meals, cleaning the house, like running errands, taking kids to wherever they need to go.
But the shitty thing is they can do all these things. There's always something more that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Have the time, especially when you're in the beginning part of your career, or sometimes when you're, through on the latter half of your career,
right.
You're not making enough to make ends meet, and everything feels like you are failing at everything when you're giving your all.
Totally. And I think it's easy too. If you're feeling weaker in one area, I feel like it's easy for that to like leak into all the other things that you might still be succeeding at.
Why is it that our brains are so quick to find the thing that we suck at?
Right.
And that will then plague all the things we're good at.
Yep. 100%.
It's insane. And that's why to me, it's like, I will never be able to criticize. Well, I can criticize. I should never rightfully criticize the way that I was brought up, knowing that like single moms are doing everything everybody else is, and then they're going home and doing it again.
Right. I know. I can't even imagine.
It's like insane.
Single moms are single parents, just in general, are superheroes, like actual superheroes.
The wild card that I think it's so obvious and everyone kind of like throws up and talks about now, but the wild card for stress and anxiety is that although I think that, do you want to swallow a couple more times?
Sorry. Yeah, that was really loud. I feel like my swallows are much louder than normal. Can you swallow in the microphone with a glass of water, please? We just need to measure this really quick for science. Why was that so much quieter than mine? Okay, ready?
There's no way that we're going to put this in the podcast.
Yes, we are. We're going to keep this in for science.
Holy shit.
Will someone tell me why my swallow is so much louder than the normal one? Is my throat broken?
Lauren has a deviated septum, and I can tell you that because every morning she wakes up to it's a choir. I was like,
I have a slight nose whistle every morning. It's like a choir. Honestly, you are welcome for that performance. I don't want to get my face busted open and my nose broken and reset or whatever that means for a deviated septum. I don't want to do that. And also, I don't want to have the camera shoved up my nose to confirm that I have a deviated septum in the first place. So this is just like an ignorance is bliss situation where I want to just keep that door shut for a very long time.
Yeah, but your ignorance is loud in the morning.
You know what? You can just suck it up. You know what? I usually only wake up maybe 15, 20 minutes before you, if I wake up before you at all. So it's fine. You're fine.
Okay. Anyway, back to stress and anxiety. I think that the wild card here is that the internet has, if it's not anything positive for this specific topic, it has, I think, shined a light on an enlightenment of the fact that there are more people out there that deal with this than I think were previously allowed to have a platform 10, 20, 30 years ago.
Oh my God. Yeah. When I first started talking about anxiety, when I first started looking into anxiety and started diving into WebMD, which always tells you that you're about to die. Yeah, don't do that. Highly recommend to never do that. Death. Yeah, your left second finger hurts. Death. Like it always leads to death. But when I started looking into emetophobia and really figuring out what my specific triggers were and based on my traumas and my symptoms, I learned about emetophobia through the internet, not from my therapist. I showed up in therapy being like, "Hi, I have a general anxiety disorder, and I have emetophobia and sometimes agoraphobia." And so I went into my therapy sessions armed with knowledge because of how much information is available on the internet. And it wasn't even the informational pieces that really resonated with me. It was the forums of people who went through similar experiences that meant the most to me. And it made me feel like I wasn't isolated in these problems that felt like they were just absolutely controlling my life.
Yep. And that's the positive side. The negative side is for every single one of those positive forums, there's 14 fucking ridiculous ones where people are absolute trash humans that are either making fun of each other or are pointing out all the mistakes and the issues.
Right.
I mean, God knows. The internet's mean. It's a harsh place, and unfortunately, we haven't figured out that balance of how to be nice people. Right. But my whole point to this was there's definitely been an enlightenment period since the internet. Yes, there's also been a world of you could be doing better. This is what this person's doing. This is how you should compare yourself.
And
it's just this constant balance of trying to figure out how to not be ignorant to the rest of the world and use it as a resource. Without having it be a virtual dick measuring contest.
Right. Instagram, I feel has been, something that everyone needs to learn how to mentally balance and figure out how to use it as a platform that's enjoyable, an expression of art and photography and just fun content versus being oh my God, this person is vacationing here. Look how flat their stomach is. Her hair looks great. It's such a tough... It can be such a tough platform for comparison. And we could do a whole episode on how social media can be good or bad, but it definitely goes hand in hand with, tending to your mental health and making sure that social media isn't playing into the negative sides of it.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Oh my God. I've seen that on Pinterest 4,500 times. And if it ain't the truth.
Is there any fun stories we can end this podcast with?
I'm trying to think of this was just a crazy thing that it's not fun. Anxiety attacks are not funny. You literally feel like you're on the edge of death. You're I'm never coming out of this. This is the end of my life. And I mean, no exaggeration by that, truly. But one time when I lived in Toronto still, and I was a couple months out from moving to LA. So again, another massive transition period coming into my life, anxiety high. Lots of other things in my life too that were a little unstable, graduated from college, about to move, lots of things, lots of moving parts. So very anxious, very stressed, high pressure period of my life. I learned how incredibly powerful brains are. Duh, brains are powerful and smart, no fucking shit, duh. But I had an anxiety attack where my entire spine went numb. And that's not typically one of the symptoms that I experience in my personal anxiety attacks. And it may be something that's totally normal for someone else. But the spine to me is a really scary part of your body because
I don't, unless my back hurts.
Yeah.
My spine and we coexist without really thinking about each other.
You don't think about your spine ever?
No.
Oh my God, that's so crazy. I think about my spinal cord all the time. You know what it was though? I think in high school, I had someone in my high school get into a really bad diving accident and they lost motion, feeling quadriplegic. And it was just a crazy traumatic thing for I think everyone at our school to see. He was an incredible competitive athlete in so many different things. And to maybe that's part of the connection there. But anyway, so I just think about how all the different parts of your spine connect to different parts of your body. Do you not think about your spine?
Why would I? Yes, you're not saying anything that's not true. Yes, that is true. But I don't think about my heartbeat either.
Oh my God, really? I think about my heartbeat all the time. I have a little bit of arrhythmia, I think, though. So maybe that's why.
You also think about a lot of things you don't need to think about.
Definitely.
And a lot of things you probably should think about, not thinking about.
Don't think about, yeah. Anyways, my entire spine went numb from this anxiety attack. And I put myself in an Uber at 3 a.m. after calling my mom, being like, Mom, my mommy needs anything.
Your poor mother.
I know, my poor mother. She truly has texted me and been on FaceTime with me at ungodly hours of the night when I've been having anxiety attacks. Bless her soul. And so I put myself in an Uber and took myself to ER. Thank God that healthcare is free in Canada. We love that for me. I don't have health insurance there anymore, but at the time it was great. And I took myself to the ER just to make sure that everything was okay. But that was just like a moment where I was like, holy, you're telling me that I got nervous and anxious, and my brain told my spine to just take a little break, just dip out. Peace, we don't need you right now. Obviously, it didn't go anywhere, but like feeling wise, gone. I had no spine, no vertebrae. They're just completely on vacation in Cabo. Like, who knows? But it was incredible. I was like, damn, brain, you really out here being powerful and shit.
And then when did you find your spine again?
And then I found my spine a few hours later. Honestly, I'm surprised they didn't just like give me a Xanax and send me home. But they did run some.
When you say that my spine, it does. I can't feel my spine.
My spine is in Cabo.
Right. Like I think anyone would be like,
No, I went in being like very
There's a
real.
word for this one.
Yeah. I went in being very transparent about exactly like what I thought had happened. And I was like, I had a very severe anxiety attack. I did not have any like falling injuries. Like, I can still wiggle everything, but they did do a solid amount of just like movement tests and stuff to make sure everything was okay. And even just like that level of care was enough for me to be like, okay, I'm fine. I can go home now. It's now 6 a.m. Thank God this was free and I can go back to bed.
Mm-hmm. In America, that would have been the case. They've been like, well, what's your insurance?
$6,000, young lady.
Well, you got the copay? Cash? Okay.
Oh my God. I don't even know what any of that means. Oh my God. So to sum up that story, I've only been to Cabo once, but apparently my spine has been to Cabo twice. So
I don't think that's the summary for this story.
Is that not the summary for the story?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, this was an honest, transparent, hopefully slightly eloquent conversation.
I don't know if it's any of those things, but we'll be back to Dick next week.
Yeah, we're back to Dick. Regular Dick things next week. I think we should do an episode on social media, like the different social media platforms. Like, I have so much to say.
I don't have much to say.
I have lots to say.
Okay.
So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I mean, this is something that truly is such a massive part of my life and now Jeremy's. Thanks, babes. Appreciate your support. But I mean, it's something that is so prevalent in my day-to-day life and probably will be for the rest of my life. And
if you'd like to share a story that is similar in the comments, that'd be very, very insightful. I think it's really, really impactful when you see people that are interested in watching the same things as you that deal with similar struggles, and just like how many people have something that's going on. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very easy to look past or forget or not think about other people's struggles because we're too busy doing their own.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, it's crazy to me when you think of like, oh, I'm a fan of this and I deal with this, and just somebody else who's also a fan of the same content or team or league or whatever it is, like that struggles being similar.
Yeah.
It feels enlightening. So let's use the internet for good.
right.
And share a story if you're comfortable.
I mean, genuinely, after the very first time that I shared something about mental health and anxiety, reading the comments and hearing how well received it was and hearing the personal anecdotes that people had left was the stamp of, was like the green light for me to be like, oh my God, like this is going to be a massive part of what I do on the internet. Like, it was so incredible to see such a positive community and conversation.
Yeah, it's crazy that we think that no one would care about this, yet it's the things that are probably the most impactful or are determinant of like your future path.
Totally,
so
yeah, for sure.
Talking about it shouldn't be it might not be as exciting as
dicks.
Why isn't maybe we should stop just saying dicks. Maybe we're just like sex life and experience.
Yeah, anyway. So back to dicks next week. Stop, drop, roll, rate the podcast, subscribe, and follow. And we'll be back next week for your weekly dick appointment. Bye!
What's your podcast about, dicks?